Welcome to the World on the Move podcast. Today is June 7th, 2025. My name is Sanjay Stanley, and I'm talking with both of my parents, if you want to introduce yourselves.
Stanley Amarthasamy. I'm Sanjay's dad.
And I'm Rosie, and I'm Sanjay's mom.
Okay, excellent. So let's start off the conversation by just detailing a little bit why you moved to the United States and how you did so.
Do you want to go first, Stanley?
We just came here because of family. We had Rosie's siblings living in the US. So we started off by going from India to Singapore, and Singapore being east of India, and we just felt we were going to be isolated in the east. So we decided we'll move to the US, and that's how we landed up here.
Yes, and also growing up, the United States was always a place that I had envisioned as a home for us, and a place where things like freedom of speech and all kinds of freedoms that I felt was important to us growing up as a, when we were starting our family was something that I wanted for our family. So that was the reason, one of the many reasons why we moved.
Mm-hmm. And I know I was alive at the time that we moved, but I was about 3. So
yes, you were.
Yeah, I don't really remember much, if anything, from that time.
Yes.
If you want to detail kind of what your impressions of moving into our first home in Iowa, United States, and if there were any like struggles with internal or external changes that you felt from moving from India to a whole new socioeconomic system in the United States?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So one of the things that was a huge asset for Papa and I was that we didn't have a language barrier. We knew the language, but that gave us a big advantage. Even though we knew the language, though, we had a lot of struggles, learning the culture. It's a different culture. You read a lot about, I was always reading, so read a lot of books that were set in America. And I thought I had a sense for what the society here was like and what the culture was like, but it's very different when you come here. So it was a huge learning curve for me. And I was at home with you and Sandeep, your brother. Papa was working, so a lot of the things that we needed to figure out as a family, and even driving, which was like for us it was on the wrong side of the road, right? Was also was a learning that we had to do. I had to take mental things like, okay, when I'm driving, I always need to have like a passenger seat next to me before the curb. I cannot be driving on the other side where I would be on the curb. So yeah, those little things were unexpected. We navigated through them. What about you, Stanley?
I think for me, because I continued to work in the same organization, I had a lot of continuity. I could go to office and ask people different questions, and they would tell me how to navigate the system. And that was largely how we figured out the US. We had the vice president of our organization, Danny, was like our mentor and guide when we came into the US. He helped us navigate most of the system. He taught us how we had to do different things and what we had to register and what immigration-wise, he kind of helped us out a lot.
Yeah, that's something, two advantages, huge advantages that we had. We had an internal mentor, and the language was not a barrier.
Okay, so since we're kind of detailing some differences between, your experiences in India and that of the United States, why don't you tell me a little bit about what your family life was like in India, and kind of what your childhood was like.
Stanley, you want to go first this time?
Yeah, I grew up in a colony. When I say a colony, it was actually walled and gated. So we had only about 28 families in this community, and so we just knew everybody, and we were all friends that way. And that way, coming from there to Marshalltown was fairly similar, because Marshalltown was a very small town where most people worked in Fisher. So we just knew everybody by name, and go to a grocery store, you saw familiar faces and things like that. So I wouldn't say it was very different. I think it was very similar to me.
It was a little different for me. I grew up in a bigger city, so I was used to seeing different people on different. I mean, like I didn't see the same people all the time, which was the situation. It happened at Marshalltown, where because as Papa was saying, it was a smaller city, was a smaller town, so you could, like, I could go to the grocery store and look at the parking lot and see the cars and recognize and say, okay, so and so is in the grocery store. So like it was that small of a community. That was very different and was a little bit challenging because you were seeing the same people in different places, like at school, at church, and so yeah, at the grocery store. So yeah.
Were there any experiences that you felt growing up, in India are different or similar to that you'd expect, someone like me would have experienced growing up primarily in the United States?
What do you
I,
think?
I think I think in India it's very competitive, um, just because of the number of people. So people are very focused. They kind of, right or wrong, they have a purpose and they go at things very early. Competition is very intense, which I think kids in the U.S. have shelter from. They have an opportunity to explore different things and find what they like before they make a commitment, which is not necessarily the case, I would think, in countries like India or China, where there are just a lot of people. You have to make the decision very quickly and go after things.
Yeah, and also the diversity. You see so many different people from so many different countries and cultures living together, and that's quite eye-opening, right? Like how much of give and take there has to be to make this society work.
I guess stemming off of that time period, was there where and kind of what were you envisioning for yourself at this time, kind of growing up?
I think, I don't know, I don't think I would have said, if you asked me whether I'll be in the US when I grew up, when I was little, I don't think I had any such plans. All I wanted to do was have a decent family and a decent life. And I took whatever came my way and made decisions that kind of helped us get to where we were. And it's just, I think things just happened and we took the risks. It came with a lot of costs, but I think, we took the risks and we are doing what we're doing. Nothing right or wrong about living in India, but it's different. It's just a different way of life, and there are some benefits doing living in India. There are some benefits living in the U.S.
So, you felt that there was some risks emigrating to a new country, and particularly between India and the United States. Do you have anything in particular that you can think about?
A big risk is, I don't think most people understand that you're going to be isolated from your family. I think that isolation from family and friends is a big thing that most people do not clearly understand when they immigrate.
Yeah, and just feeding off of that, it takes some time to form that community. And so there is a period, as Papa's saying, that you could feel like really, really isolated, right? And if you don't know the language, that isolation is even more severe. In our case, because we were able to navigate with, without that barrier, it was easier, but it wasn't it wasn't smooth sailing. We had to intentionally form a community, intentionally go meet people, intentionally invite people into our spaces, so that we could create those connections.
When the one part of it was also that we went into a place which had very little diversity. So we were like the only Indian community in the entire town, or rather, only Indian family in the entire community. So it was probably a little more challenging, but all of them being colleagues at work certainly helped. But there was a lot of learning to do, and over time we figured things out. But initially it was tough.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Is there anything that you particularly miss about India compared to the United States? Anything that you would, I guess, do differently on your immigration here?
I don't think so. Especially with technology, you don't miss as much. But you know, your grandparents are getting older and we don't physically see them, but we are virtually, it's all virtual, right? That is hard. That is not something that we had thought through. It took us over 20 years to get there, so that's not something that we had, envisioned would happen this way. So I think that is the hardest thing that we have had to face, where our elders, right, like your grandparents on both sides, grew old and needed our assistance and need our assistance, but we are not there physically and we are having to, call on other people. So it's not just creating community here, but also creating community, maintaining your community in India so that there is that support for them.
So yeah, the other part that you miss, I don't know is whether you realize it or not, but I think the kids generally go out, play with other kids in the street. They have really tight knit community. I think that tight knit friendships in the U.S. I don't think they exist. They are kids are here a little more. I think reserved. I don't think that tight.
I think tight-knit friendships do exist, but not in the same kind of. So there are different kinds of friendships. I mean, you have friends you went to school with from first grade. So for the past, 15 years, you've been friends with people. And it's the same thing for your brother Sandeep too. So he has friends, he went to school with, and people do check in and stuff. So yeah, and things are changing all the time. I don't think people are playing in the streets in India as well. So, yeah, things are changing all around.
Yeah, I think maybe
Yeah.
that is just a matter of the time that
Right.
you are growing up.
Right.
I think in the past, people were willing to go play in the street, play in the sand, build things, stuff like that, which people don't do anymore. People, I think, today are doing things in a more sheltered way. So it's very different. And I think it does make a difference from a standpoint of, okay, how close you are with the rest of your friends.
Okay, I think this is going to be the last question for us.
Right. I guess I think a good way to wrap this up would be: is there any advice that either of you have for immigrants kind of facing the same struggles that you had emigrating to the United States, or I guess any wishes for for me or my brother or for our family going forward?
I think, I'll start first with what do I want to tell people who are immigrating. The big thing that anybody immigrating needs to do is make a decision if where they are immigrating to is the country they want to live. If that is the country they want to live and that's the decision they have made, they need to make sure their immigration status is properly addressed and taken care. That is the first thing they need to do. If they don't do that and postpone till a later time, immigration laws change, countries change, it can get to become very complex, and after building a community, you may have to uproot and move to different places just because you didn't take care of things ahead of time.
Yeah, that research, I guess, is important. But to talk about our wish for you and for Sandeep, is joy and happiness. I hope you find that. I hope all of the struggles that we have done in our life bears fruit in yours and Sandeep's life, that you find that this is truly your home and you're able to fulfill whatever desires and whatever ambitions you have in this new home.
I think we've come to the end of our time here. This has been the first episode of the World on the Move podcast. I hope everyone has enjoyed.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Great. Okay, is that... We definitely need to turn down the scaling on this. These are so sensitive.